going, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Weigh-In Podcast. Today's a little bit different. Today I'm flying solo. We got Sugar Ray who's on his way back. So on the next episode, it's going to be the both of us. But today I'm running a bit solo. Before we go into today's video, I do want to say a special shout out to everyone who's watched our Tyson Fury Dillian White episode. It's got some very good views. So obviously I'm hoping for the same for this. So before we kick anything off, please like, share, subscribe, follow us on all our socials, _the Weigh-In _, and let us know about the following facts that we are going to talk about. And today it's a big, this coming Saturday, it's a big weekend, but it's also going to be a late one. We do have Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor and Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez. All the fights will be across the pond, and I'm going to be here breaking them down for you guys. We're going to start off with Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. It's for all the belts in the lightweight division, and it's probably one of the most hyped up fights we've had for a long time. It is also sold out in Madison Square Garden. So just highlighting the magnitude of this fight, it's big for women's boxing. It's going to be on an unprecedented stage, and I think for me, it's a long time coming, and it's one that even for some casuals, they will be really excited to be watching this fight. Leading up to it, Eddie Hearn and, to his credit, Jake Paul have done really well going up to this fight. Got Amanda Serrano, who essentially has worked her way up through multiple division world champion. And then on the other side, you've got Katie Taylor, who through the Olympics with Eddie Hearn has risen up to the point where we're now looking at her as one of the flagship bearers of women's boxing. I'm looking at this fight and it's a true 50-50. You hear a lot about boxing fights where a lot of people claim it's a 50-50, but in this particular case, you can't actually call it. You've got a lot of things to break down, and I'm going to start off first with, like I said, the promotion side of things. We have Eddie Hearn, who we all know promotes everything excellently. We've been on this show numerous times where we talk about how everyone can learn from Eddie Hearn. His production value leading up to fights, press events, even the fighters themselves, they all actually genuinely, regardless of what his reputation is outside with the fans, the fighters themselves work well with him, and he puts on a great show. And on the other side, you've got Jake Paul. He might be criticized for getting into this particular boxing world, but when you actually break down what he's managed to do and what he's actually championed in terms of Amanda Serrano and pushing her name constantly, getting her paid, it's definitely something that can be, I guess, commended on. And for that particular reason, you have to provide both of them with a lot of, I guess you could say, you have to give them the respect for both guys. Now, with the actual fight itself, like I said, it is happening in Madison Square Garden. So we all know that as one of the biggest stages when it comes to boxing, and to have two women now headlining this, it's a step forward in 2022 that has been coming. And I guess for both fighters themselves, they'll be excited to showcase what they can do. And then we break down the fight itself. Amanda Serrano, 7 times women division champion. She's worked her way through it all. And then on the other side, like I mentioned, Katie Taylor, from the Olympics, she's gone strength to strength. She's had the marketing machine, and all the opposition she's fought have been of decent quality. Now, when you actually break down the particular fight, you've got Amanda Serrano, who's known for her knockout power. Katie Taylor as well. I can't just disregard her power, but I think for me, Amanda Serrano power outweighs Katie Taylor's. And especially one thing I do really like is her body work. I think she can definitely influence this fight by going to the body a lot more. Whereas I look at Katie Taylor and I think, what can you do to combat that? And I think for me, like I said, we've got the power of both women, but I think what she can do is take her power and put that into combinations. And she has a bit more of a refined style to her game compared to Serrano. In terms of weaknesses for both girls, again, it's not necessarily too much of a weakness because I think this is going to be a blockbuster fight. But I do think defensively, both are a bit stiff. The head movement's not as great as it can be, and I think that can obviously be a factor in this particular fight. But we're looking at margins when it comes to both women there. As for a prediction, if I'm really honest, it's one of them you genuinely can't call it type of fights. I do believe, being where we are and what's going on, we are going to see a blockbuster event. I do personally think we're seeing 12 rounds. And whilst I can respect Amanda Serrano for being in the game for as long as she has been, a lot of people also don't know that she's been boxing for a very long time. I believe she was 20 or 21 when she made her professional debut. She didn't have the amateur background. I think that's the thing that kind of shocks a lot of people when you look at Amanda Serrano's time scale in boxing professionally. She didn't have that much of an amateur background, but through the professional ranks, she's been there, she's done it all. But I am going to possibly lean towards Katie Taylor in this. I think we're looking at a decision. I can't see a knockout for both. I think the only way the fight actually gets stopped is via a referee himself. I can't imagine any of them two going out getting knocked out personally. But I would lean towards Katie Taylor and winning on a split decision. Don't be surprised if you see a draw. We've seen it before in previous fights where the first fight of something that's been hyped up so much ends as a draw. And I'm not putting that particular result out of the equation. I do think we have a possibility of Saturday night, Sunday morning ending with a draw between both women, and then we look at a second fight potentially. But I do think if I was going to pick one or the other, I am leaning towards Katie Taylor just a little bit more. And that's not a knock on Amanda Serrano at all. But I guess I want to know you guys' views on this particular fight as well. Are you excited for this coming up? And also, I want to know something before we go into Valdez and Stevenson. How happy are you that we've been able to have both big fights on the same night, and also the timings have worked out perfectly? Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano will go on around about 3 in the morning. Still late, but they'll go on early, and then Shakur Stevenson and Valdez will follow up afterwards. So I want to know your views on that. If you are, just let us know by dropping a comment on the YouTube video when this goes out, and also like, share, and subscribe. But also let us know on our social _the_weigh-in_. With that, we are moving on to the second fight of the night, Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez. Now, when they say a grudge fight, this is it. This epitomizes for me the idea of a grudge fight. And we can look at it from both guys calling each other at 126 to now finally getting here at 130. Oscar Valdez having Eddie Reynoso in his corner is huge for me. Obviously known for training Canelo Alvarez, but at the same time, Shakur Stevenson being brought up with Terence Crawford, having him constantly in his stable, having a pound for pound guy as basically your mentor, I think that's huge as well. As for the fight itself, I think promotionally, to break it down, I think again, we've criticized Barham a bit and just say he's a bit lackluster in terms of being able to do that. But when available, he's done well for this particular fight. And as somebody who's followed Shakur Stevenson for a while, there's been a bit of criticism from myself early on where he wasn't stopping guys. And I think that's now been put into his game and his boxing, and he's refined that way. He's able to stop fighters as well. Now, breaking down both fighters just quickly, Oscar Valdez, definitely the more aggressive boxer. I do think that, and I do believe that that is something where we will see that from Valdez to be able to win this fight. He does need to be able to fight on the inside. He does need to be able to, what I would say, let Shakur Stevenson feel his power. Once he can do that, I think we look at a different fight. If he's not able to hit Shakur Stevenson, I think Shakur Stevenson is able to do what he's able to do constantly. And that, for me, right now, is sit as one of the most complete boxers and still needs to be refined athletes right now that we got. What I mean by that is when you look at Shakur Stevenson, he's basically somebody who can fight on the outside. He can dictate the fight as much as you want to dictate the fight. You really can't do that. And that's come with the name as well. He's known as the young Floyd Mayweather. And whilst he's happy to take that name. We can tell Shakur Stevenson is his own man. And for that particular reason, I do think at the same time, he's able to take the name, take his style, and perfect it. As for how I see this particular fight going, as much as Oscar Valdez comes into this, whereas we have the first fight as a 50-50, personally for me, I know some people have called this a possible 50-50. I see this as more of a grudge fight, which is probably leading to that. I do think Shakur Stevenson controls this fight. Just like all these previous fights coming into this, I do believe he'll be able to control the range, and for that, again, dictate the fight. He's going to be able to jab pretty well. And I do think because of his style, his move, his ability to hit a move, I'm going to again lean with him. I don't think he'll knock out Valdez. As I said before, for me, for Valdez to be able to get anything from this fight, it's going to be a case of can't fall too behind on the rounds. And for that, you need to be able to hit Shakur Stevenson. Once you're able to do that, he's able to feel the power that you have. I do think there'll be a bit of, I guess, the best way to explain it, I think he'll be a bit more aware to say, okay, this is another fight I can't take too lightly. If Valdez isn't able to do that on the earlier rounds, for me, I think we can see Shakur Stevenson getting into his groove. And for me, I'll say it'll be a unanimous decision. I do think Stevenson, again, wins here, unifies another title. And as he's previously alluded to, he wants to go undisputed. And I think he's got the skill set for it. As for both fights, though, I think this is one of the biggest nights in boxing we've had for a while. I genuinely think we're going to have two great fights. Now, what I will say is, if you were to pick for me which is going to be the more explosive fight, I'm going for the first fight. I'm going for Taylor and Serrano because I believe both women are more aggressive in this style. Whereas I think Shakur Stevenson can neutralize Valdez's power, and therefore he might make this one of them fights where it's 12 rounds of straight control. But I do want to hear your views on both fights. So as always, if you are enjoying the content, you know what to do. Share, like, share, and subscribe. And also let us know on our social media platforms as well. _TheWayne_ on the Twitter page and the Instagram page. Let us know your views on this particular fight itself. But with that, I am going to wrap up today's little preview video. We're going to have Ray back when he's thrown back in. He'll be Sunny Ray again. I see that comment on YouTube about Sunny Shining Ray. We're going to get him back on the pod, and we'll recap everything that happens over the weekend, as well as look ahead towards Canelo Bivol and all the other big fights that are going to happen for in the month of May as well. But with that, we are going to wrap up today's videos. As always, guys, like, share, and subscribe, and peace and love.